Here's something that will mess with your head. The men women treat worst are usually the men they want most. The guys who get the silent treatment, the emotional outbursts, the constant testing, the impossible standards. Those aren't the men women are indifferent to. Those are the men they're falling for. This isn't some feel-good relationship advice. This is cold, clinical psychology, and it explains why so many women end up alone, wondering why all the good men keep walking away. The brutal truth? Women systematically destroy their chances with the men they actually love through behaviors so predictable, so emotionally charged, that it almost feels like self-sabotage built into their DNA. And the most twisted part? They do it because they care. When a woman doesn't care about a man, she's calm. She's playful. She's easy. She doesn't analyze his tone or check when he was last online. But when she truly likes him, when she starts imagining a future, everything changes. Her mind becomes a battlefield of fear and desire. Every message he sends becomes a clue. Every silence becomes a threat. Every word he doesn't say becomes proof of rejection. She doesn't mean to hurt him. But her fear of losing him turns love into control. She pushes, she tests, she provokes. She wants reassurance, but her methods destroy the very safety she's begging for. Imagine this. You text her, "I'll call you later." You mean it, you're just busy. But to her, that silence in the next 2 hours becomes torture. In her head, she's not just waiting for a call, she's replaying every past disappointment, every man who said he cared and didn't show up. By the time you finally call, she's not relieved, she's resentful. Because she's been arguing with a version of you that only exists in her imagination. And that's the tragedy, women don't fight men. They fight the fear that men awaken in them. The more she likes you, the more her instincts panic. Don't get too close, he'll leave. Don't be too soft, he'll lose interest. Don't be too happy, something bad always happens after. So she does the only thing her subconscious knows, she tests your patience, your love, your limits. Not because she wants to lose you, but because she wants to prove she can't. That's the paradox of female emotion. She hurts the man she wants to keep, because she's terrified of being the one left broken again. You see it everywhere. A woman meets a man who treats her right, steady, kind, emotionally mature. At first, she melts into the safety. She says it feels different this time. But slowly, something inside her rebels against the peace. She picks fights that don't matter. She interprets silence as withdrawal. She withholds affection to test his effort. She says she wants honesty but punishes him for telling the truth. It's not cruelty, it's trauma in disguise. Her nervous system doesn't know how to rest in stability. It only recognizes intensity. If it's calm, it feels boring. If it's peaceful, it feels suspicious. She doesn't crave drama, she craves the reassurance that she matters. But here's the cruel twist. Every test she gives him is a small punishment for making her feel something real. Every argument, every accusation, every emotional explosion is her way of saying, "I'm scared that you'll see who I really am and stop loving me." She doesn't realize that the man she's testing is slowly shutting down. He's not angry, he's exhausted. He's tired of proving he's not like the last guy. Tired of walking on emotional glass. Tired of defending himself against ghosts that aren't his. And one day he just goes quiet. Not out of malice, but out of emotional survival. He stops trying to fix what he didn't break. He stops trying to reassure what can't be reassured. And when that happens, she panics. Because now, the silence that she once used as punishment becomes her own sentence. That's the tragedy of modern love. Women punish the very men who would have stayed. They destroy safety searching for proof of it. They suffocate love in the name of protecting it. And when he finally walks away, they call him cold. They say, he changed. But he didn't change, he just stopped bleeding for someone who mistook his devotion for weakness. It's not hate. It's heartbreak disguised as defense. The woman who seems hardest to love is often the one most afraid of being unloved. But until she learns that safety isn't something you test, it's something you build, she'll keep hurting the men who only wanted to hold her. Here's the part nobody ever tells you. Women don't wake up deciding to hurt the man they love. It happens slowly, almost invisibly. It starts with fear disguised as love, and ends with control disguised as care. At first, she just wants reassurance. Do you still love me? Why didn't you text back? Who were you with? But behind those questions isn't curiosity, it's panic. Because somewhere deep down, she believes love will always leave. So instead of letting it breathe, she holds it tighter, until it can't breathe at all. The truth is, women don't fear being alone as much as they fear being abandoned again. That fear is what drives the behavior that pushes men away. The mood swings, the emotional traps, the endless overthinking, they're not about control. They're about survival. She's not trying to test his patience, she's trying to test his staying power. How much can he take before he walks? How much chaos can I create before he decides I'm too much? It's not cruelty, it's a subconscious audition for safety. And the cruel irony? Every test she gives him drains the safety she's desperate to find. He starts to feel it. At first it's subtle. The tension in her voice when he laughs at his phone. The shift in her tone when he mentions another woman's name. The way every small mistake becomes a symbol of deeper betrayal. He starts censoring himself. He edits his words. He hides his frustrations. Not because he wants to lie, but because he's learned that truth often leads to punishment. So he becomes quieter. She mistakes that quiet for distance. And suddenly what began as love turns into a loop of misunderstanding. Both people hurting, both thinking the other stopped caring. Psychologists call this attachment anxiety, but in real life, it feels like emotional landmines. A woman with this pattern doesn't know how to receive peace, because she equates intensity with love. If he's calm, she thinks he's bored. If he's silent, she thinks he's hiding something. If he's distant for a moment, she thinks he's planning to leave. So she starts arguments to feel alive again. She picks at small details just to hear emotion in his voice. She pushes him to react, because reaction feels like proof that he still cares. But to him it doesn't feel like proof. It feels like punishment. The tragedy is, women don't realize what they're doing until it's too late. By the time they see the exhaustion in his eyes, the damage is done. He's not angry anymore, he's numb. And numbness is the real end of love. He doesn't slam doors or shout back. He just stops showing up emotionally. He starts answering with short texts. He laughs less. He touches less. And when she asks, "Why don't you love me like before?" he can't find the words to explain that it was her fear that killed it. Women hurt the men they love the most, not because they want to, but because they never learned how to love without fear. They were taught to chase reassurance, not connection. To control affection, not trust it. To test loyalty, not build it. And so, without realizing it, they punish the men who try the hardest. Until those men stop trying altogether. The worst part? When those men finally leave, the women blame them for being weak. Never realizing that it takes more strength to walk away from chaos than to survive inside it. There's a moment every man remembers, that quiet shift when her love started to feel like a test. It doesn't happen overnight. It's gradual, almost invisible, like emotional erosion. One day she's laughing at your jokes, the next she's analyzing your tone. One day you're her comfort, the next you're her target. And the strangest part? She doesn't even know she's doing it. Because for many women, love doesn't feel safe unless there's a little pain attached. See, when a woman falls deeply in love, something ancient wakes up in her. A primal mix of longing and fear. The part of her that once whispered, "He could be the one," now screams, "He could be the one who hurts me." And from that moment on, she's not just loving you, she's protecting herself from you. That's where the sabotage begins. She starts reading into everything. Not because she's suspicious, but because she's scared. If you're quiet, she wonders what she did wrong. If you're busy, she thinks you're losing interest. If you seem distant, she rewrites the story in her head until she becomes the villain in it. You tell her you're tired. She hears, "I'm tired of you." You tell her you need space. She hears, "I'm done with this." You tell her everything's fine. She hears, "You're hiding something." She's not trying to twist your words, she's translating them through the echo of every man who ever made her feel unworthy. But here's the part that breaks men. When a woman feels unsafe emotionally, she doesn't pull away, she pulls tighter. She texts more, calls more, demands more reassurance. She becomes the version of herself she secretly hates, needy, reactive, unpredictable. And the more she fears losing you, the more she becomes the reason you start pulling back. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy disguised as love. You start to withdraw, not because you don't care but because you're tired of being punished for things you didn't do. You stop opening up, not because you're cold but because every vulnerability turns into ammunition later. You stop fighting, not because you've stopped loving but because every fight feels like losing a little more of yourself. And to her that withdrawal feels like proof. See? I knew he didn't really care. She doesn't see that she created the distance she's crying about. That's how love turns into emotional warfare. One side fighting to be heard, the other fighting to survive. But there's another layer that few talk about, the control disguised as care. It starts softly. "I just want to know where you are. Text me when you get home. Why didn't you tell me she was there?" Each question sounds innocent, even loving. But underneath it's not about safety. It's about possession. Because when she loves you, she wants to own the peace you give her. She wants to be the only source of your happiness, the only woman who gets your attention, the only voice that matters. But love built on ownership always collapses, because eventually, you stop being a partner and start being a prisoner. And the truth is, men break quietly. Not with shouting or revenge, but with silence. They just stop showing up emotionally. They give the right answers but not the right energy. They listen but they're no longer really there. They've learned that honesty leads to arguments, affection leads to manipulation, and vulnerability leads to guilt. So they armor up. Not out of pride, but out of self-defense. And when they finally leave, women don't understand it. They'll say, "He just changed one day." No, he didn't change. He adapted. He realized that no matter how much love he gave, it would always be questioned, tested, and dissected until nothing felt real anymore. So he leaves not to find someone new, but to remember what peace feels like. That's the most painful part of all. Women don't lose men because they stop loving them. They lose them because they make love feel like walking through a minefield. And what's worse, they don't even notice they're doing it. They think they're just emotional. They think they're just protecting their heart. But in truth, they're teaching good men that love means losing yourself. And those men? They don't come back. Because once a man learns that peace is possible, he'll never trade it for chaos again, no matter how beautiful the chaos looks. There's always a moment when it hits her. After the arguments, after the silence, after the man she swore would never leave finally does. She sits in that quiet room and for the first time in years, there's no one left to fight. No one left to test. No one left to prove wrong. Just her and the echo of everything she pushed away. She scrolls through old messages, the ones where he tried. The long paragraphs where he explained what she refused to hear. The nights he said, "I'm not your enemy, I just want peace." Back then she called that cold. Now she calls it clarity. Because what she never understood was that men don't leave when they stop loving you. They leave when love starts feeling like punishment. You see, men fall in love quietly, but they fall out of love silently. No warnings, no final speeches. Just the gradual fading of a man who's been emotionally bled dry. She thinks he changed overnight, but the truth is, he's been breaking for months. Every insult he brushed off. Every accusation he swallowed. Every apology he gave for something he didn't do. It all added up. And one morning he just wakes up, free. Not because he stopped caring, but because caring became unbearable. Women rarely realize the weight men carry in love. The constant emotional balancing act, staying strong but not too distant, caring but not smothering, listening but never exploding. They take it as given, not as effort. They call it emotional availability when it suits them and weakness when it doesn't. But men aren't bottomless wells of patience. They're human. And humans break. Here's the dark side of it. When she finally notices his silence, it's too late. When she starts to panic, he's already gone. And that's when the guilt begins. Not the guilt of losing him, but the guilt of realizing she caused the loss she feared most. She replays every fight, every cruel word, every eye roll when he tried to talk. She remembers the way he looked at her the last time, not angry, not even sad, just done. That look burns. Because for the first time she realizes, this time she can't fix it. There's no apology big enough to erase the exhaustion she carved into his heart. Women hurt the men they love the most because those are the men who see them most clearly. The ones who see their chaos, their insecurity, their need to control, and love them anyway. But instead of trusting that love, they test it until it breaks. Because deep down, they don't believe they're lovable without the fight. They've been taught that love means drama, not peace, survival, not safety. So when a man finally loves them gently, they mistake it for weakness. And destroy the very calm they've always prayed for. But here's the thing. Once a man experiences emotional freedom, he doesn't go back. He might forgive, but he never forgets how it felt to breathe again. To wake up without anxiety. To live without being constantly measured, tested, and drained. And the next time he loves differently. Quietly. Cautiously. He'll give less, expect more, and guard his peace like a sacred thing. Because once a man learns that peace is the most valuable form of love, he stops trading it for chaos dressed as passion. And the woman? She'll remember him every time she meets someone new. Every time she pushes away another good man for reasons she can't explain. Every time she realizes that the men she truly desires no longer chase, they choose peace instead. She'll wonder why no one fights for her anymore. But she won't see that she was the one who turned love into a battlefield in the first place. That's the cruel irony of it all. The woman who hurts the man she loves the most doesn't lose him because he stopped loving her. She loses him because, for the first time in his life, he finally loved himself enough to walk away. And when that happens, she finally understands what every man who's ever left her already knew. You can't build love on fear. You can't test loyalty into existence. And you can't keep someone who just wanted peace by giving them more.